Welcome to Miss Retro Reads. I wanted to do a show on modesty because when I was a teenager, I remember finding it hard to find anything on what the church teaches about modesty. I would ask priests about it and monks, and I would get all kinds of different answers about it. So just to clarify on this, I thought it would be good to read this encyclical, and it also has practical guide to tell you where you're being modest and where you're not. So I'll get to that in a minute, but before I read that, let's try and figure out how we got to where we are in society with the way people are dressing today. So let's see, what does the Bible say about modesty? I did find something once. It's from Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy 22:5. A woman shall not be clothed with man's apparel, neither shall a man use women's apparel, for he that doth these things is abominable before God. So I don't really like when I just talk off the cuff like this, but here goes. I remember a few years ago there were a lot of people that were shocked by men's fashions that were coming out. And I was kind of giggling about this because in the 1930s, women were wearing men's tuxedos and acting like this was normal. And they were like in movies wearing men's tuxedos and things. And yet this was not considered shocking. Maybe at the time it was, but not now. And I was like, well, that's interesting. It's almost like we've been conditioned where we're not shocked anymore. And I was listening recently to Fulton Sheen. He was giving a speech, and he said that since we're sense creatures, we might hear a sound like somebody snapping. So if I'm snapping, you might hear it the first 20 minutes. And then after a while, you don't hear it anymore. And in order for me to make an impression on you, I would have to start clapping because we get used to things. And so, like if we're eating a meal and we get that gratification from eating a good meal, the next time we might have to eat something sweeter or more spicy or just a larger meal in order to get that gratification. It's with anything in nature. God gives us good things and we tend to abuse them if we don't have balance in our life. That's why we have religion. So therefore, it would be good for us to know the guidelines to modesty. Let's see what the saints say about modesty. The saints are not infallible, but they got to heaven, so they probably know how to get there. So a lot of you have probably heard about Padre Pio. He was a monk, and he lived, 1940s, 50s, around that time. He said, "The church is the house of God. It is forbidden for men to enter with bare arms or in shorts. It is forbidden for women to enter in trousers, without a veil on their head, in short clothing, low neckline, sleevelessness, or immodest dress." St. Alphonsus Liguori said, "We must practice modesty not only in our looks, but also our whole deportment, and particularly in our dress, our walk, our conversations, and all similar actions." St. Augustine said, "Lust indulged becomes habit, and habit unresisted becomes necessity. More souls go to hell because of sin of the flesh than any other reason," says Our Lady of Fatima. St. Jerome said, "Either we must speak as we dress or dress as we speak. Why do we profess one thing and display another? The tongue talks of chastity, but the whole body reveals impurity." St. Ignatius of Loyola said, "Let your modesty be a sufficient incitement, yea, an exhortation to everyone to be at peace on their merely looking at you." That's a good one. I like that one. And this is a prophecy I just stumbled upon. It's St. Nilus, and he died in 430, so quite a while ago. He said in a prophecy, "After the year 1900, towards the middle of the 20th century, the people of that time will become unrecognizable. People's appearances will change, and it will be impossible to distinguish men from women due to their shamelessness in dress and the style of hair." And St. Jacinta Marto said, Fashions that will greatly offend our Lord will appear. People who serve God should not follow fashions. The church has no fashions. Our Lord is always the same. So I find those pretty inspiring. And now I can read the encyclical. First, he speaks of some things. In the very end, he does some practical rules for you on modesty. And for some context, this was written in 1930. What was going on in the world at the time was that Hitler had organized the Nazi Party, and 9 years later, he would invade Poland, to give you an idea of what was happening. A papal decree concerning modesty. His Holiness Pope Pius XI, the 12th of January, 1930. By virtue of his supreme apostolate whereby the universal church is founded, by divine institution, our most holy lordship, Pope Pius XI, never tires of reiterating the words of St. Paul, to wit, "Women are also in decent apparel, adorning themselves with modesty and sobriety. But as it becometh women professing godliness with good works." 1 Timothy 2, 9 and 10. Frequently, when the occasion has presented itself, the self-same holy pontiff has reproved and bitterly condemned immodesty of dress, perversely introduced into use these days amongst Catholic women and girls, a thing which not only gravely offends feminine beauty and ornament, but leads most lamentably to the temporal and worse still the eternal ruin of these same women, and unto the ruin of others still. It is no wonder then that the bishops and other ordinaries, as befits the ministers of Christ, and each in his respective diocese, have opposed by all means and with unanimous voice such misguided license and brazen impudence, and tolerating the while with calm fortitude on account of this frequent derision and abuse brought against them by souls of ill will. So let this sacred concilium of the clergy and of the people pursue the same sort of vigilance and action regarding the propagation of discipline as the holy bishop, with deserved approbation and praise, and let it earnestly exhort these same men that they implement the counsels and the undertakings begun in due season, and urge them on generously and to the best of their ability, until this perfidious sickness be completely rooted out from amongst the honest affairs of men, that this aim might be brought the more easily and securely to effect. This sacred congregation, by the mandate of the most holy Lord, decrees what follows to be enacted. 1. May parish priests especially, and preachers, when the occasion presents itself, and according to the words of St. Paul, demand, reprove, beseech, and rebuke women to wear clothes that redolent of modesty, and such other things as are the ornament and vanguard of virtue, and may they warn parents not to permit their children to wear unseemly dress. 2. Parents, being ever mindful of the most awesome obligation, which binds them of caring firstly and foremostly for the moral and religious education of their children, are to apply particular diligence that their daughters be firmly grounded in Christian doctrine, and that those same daughters also zealously foster in their souls, by words and example, the love of virtues, of modesty and chastity. May parents also, in imitation of the Holy Family, busy themselves about so ordering and governing their family that each and every individual within the family home has a cause and incentive to love and guard modesty. 3. Let those same parents prohibit their children from public athletic events and gymnastics competitions, or at least, if their daughters must be involved in them, that they take care to exhibit clothing which is fully in keeping with the modesty, and that their parents never permit them to wear immodest clothing. 4. May the governesses of colleges and instructresses of schools strive so to imbue the souls of young women with the love of modesty that these same young women are led efficaciously to modesty of dress. 5. May those same governesses and instructresses, with no exception, even to their own mothers, forbid admission to colleges and schools to such women as wear unseemly clothing, and, once admitted, if they fail to come to their senses, that they dismiss them. 6. Let not religious, according to the letters given by the Sacred Congregation concerning religious on the August the 13th, 1928, admit young women into their colleges, schools, oratories, or gymnasia who do not observe a Christian manner of dress, or, if they have already been admitted, that they not tolerate those who do not observe a Christian manner of dress. May they, moreover, take special pains in the education of their female students, so that the love of Christian modesty and of holy reserve take deep root in their hearts. 7. May pious associations of women be established and fostered, organizations which, by their counsel, example, and deed, set before themselves the goal of checking the abuse of dress, which is not consistent with the dictates of Christian modesty, as well as the goal of promoting purity of morals and of modesty of dress. 8. Into the pious associations of women let not those women be admitted who put on immodest clothing, and once admitted, if afterwards they commit a sin in this regard, and come not to their senses when admonished, may be expelled as well. 9. Women and girls who wear immodest clothes are to be prohibited from Holy Communion and from the office of sponsor in the sacraments of baptism and confirmation, and in certain cases they are to be prohibited even from entry into the church. 10. When the feasts occur throughout the year, which supply a particular opportunity to inculcate Christian modesty, and especially feasts of the Blessed Virgin Mary, may parish priests and priests of pious associations, head of Catholic societies, not fail, by means of sermons for that occasion, to recall and encourage women to a Christian manner of dress. Every year, on the feast of the Immaculate Conception of the Blessed Virgin Mary, let special prayers in all the cathedrals and churches be made, and, where possible, may timely exhortation be given to the people in the church. 11. May diocesan councils, discussed in Declaration of the Holy Office of March 22nd, 1918, in a spirit of vigilance, and least once a year, openly deal with finding ever more suitable means and methods of effectively giving counsel on feminine modesty. 12. To which point may solitary action effectively and safely lead. May bishops and other local ordinaries keep this sacred congregation informed every third year, together with a report on religious institutions given of our own accord in Letters in the Catholic World on June 29, 1923, even concerning the condition of things and the state surrounding feminine manner of dress, and concerning works carried out in accordance with the rule of this instruction. And this is the more practical instruction on how to dress. The Mary-like standards for modesty in dress. A dress cannot be called decent which is cut deeper than 2 fingers' breadth under the pit of the throat, which does not cover the arms at least to the elbows, and scarcely reaches a bit beyond the knees. Furthermore, dresses of transparent materials are improper. The Cardinal Vicar of Pope Pius XI. 1. Mary-like is modest without compromise, like Mary, Christ's mother. 2. Mary-like dresses have sleeves extending at least to the elbows and skirts reaching below the knees. Note well, because of impossible market conditions, quarter-length sleeves are temporarily tolerated with ecclesiastical approval until Christian womanhood again turns to Mary as the model of modesty in dress. 3. Mary-like dress requires full coverage for the bodice, chest, shoulders, back, except for a cutout about the neck not exceeding 2 inches below the neckline in front and in back, and a corresponding 2 inches on the shoulders. 4. Mary-like dresses do not admit as modest coverage transparent fabrics, laces, nets, organdies, nylons, etc., unless sufficient backing is added. However, their moderate use as trimmings is acceptable. 5. Mary-like dresses do not admit the use improper of flesh-colored fabrics. 6. Mary-like dresses conceal rather than reveal the figure of the wearer. They do not unduly emphasize the parts of the body. 7. Mary-like dresses provide full coverage, even after the jacket, the cape, or the stoles are removed. 8. Slacks or jeans are not to be worn to church. Mary-like fashions are designed to conceal as much of the body as possible, rather than reveal it. This would automatically eliminate such fashions as tight-fitting slacks or jeans, sweaters, shorts which do not reach down at least to the knees, sheer blouses and sleeveless dresses, etc. These Mary-like standards are a guide to instill a sense of modesty. Women and girls who follow these standards and who look to Mary as their ideal and model will have no problem of modesty in dress. She who follows these standards will not be the occasion of sin nor a source of embarrassment or shame to others. And that's the end. I hope that you found this helpful. And I just want to say that anybody that's out there that's trying to dress modestly, just keep it up. It's really worth it. And it's so beautiful to see women who are dressed modestly but fashionably. And thanks for listening to Miss Retro Reads. I hope you have a great day.